All right, number 2, 2017. You should have already done this problem before you watch this video, so please make sure you do that and then come back and grade it. In this problem, we're talking about bananas. It says when a certain grocery store opens, it has 50 pounds of bananas on a display table. Customers remove bananas from the display table at a rate modeled by f of t. Now, in our current times, when people are shopping at Walmart and Stater Brothers and taking all the food off the shelves, I'm sure that this rate is not an accurate model of what's going on in our world today, but for this sake, we'll use it. It says that f of t is the rate at which customers remove bananas, and then it's measured in pounds per hour. And then after the store has been open for 3 hours, the store employees add bananas to the display at a rate of g of t in pounds per hour. So I want to note that this is a rate in, rate out problem. So we are going to state that f of t is the rate out, because that is the customers removing the bananas. And then g of t is the rate in, so that's because the bananas are being added through the store employees. Now, the other important thing to note is that f of t is true over the interval 0 to 12. So basically, once the store opens, bananas are being taken off the shelf. It is only after 3 hours, after 3 hours that the store's been open, that the employees start adding bananas to the shelves. So keep that in mind in terms of the domain. All right, part A, it says how many pounds of bananas are removed from the display table during the first 2 hours? So here I'm asking how many pounds of bananas, so how many bananas? Well, considering that these are both rates, I know I'm going to need to take an integral. And then it says are removed, which means I don't care about the amount that was added or the rate in, I only care about the rate out. So this is going to be the integral from 0 to 2 of f of t dt. Just typing that into your calculator, you should have gotten 20.051, and the units on that would be pounds. As far as points go, you're going to get 1 point for your integral expression, so 1 point for this guy right here, and then 1 point for your answer. Now notice it did not say indicate units, and partially because the unit's already given here. So if you just put 20.051, then that is your answer. You didn't have to put pounds necessarily. For part B, it says find f prime of 7. Well, let's go ahead and do that first. F prime of 7, we're just going to plug 7 into this. And hopefully you save this as like y1 and this is y2. So we can just type that into our calculator instead of trying to do it analytically. But when I plug in 7 to f prime, so taking the derivative of f at t equals 7, you end up with negative 8.120. Now it says use correct units. Explain the meaning of f prime of 7 in the context. Well, keeping in mind that f is the rate out. Remember the units on f were pounds per hour. So when I take the derivative of pounds per hour, I'm going to get pounds per hour, or pounds per hour squared. So the interpretation of this is the rate of f, or it's the rate of the rate. So we would say that the rate at which bananas are leaving the shelves, or the rate at which customers remove bananas from the shelves, is decreasing at a rate of, so here I've explained what it is. It's the rate at which customers remove bananas is decreasing at a rate of, so it's the rate of a rate. And notice I put decreasing here because f prime is negative. So it's decreasing at a rate of 8.120. And then the units on this are going to be pounds per hour squared, or pounds per hour. And then this is happening when t equals 7 hours. So again, 4 things we're looking for in an interpretation. The first thing is, what is it? The rate at which customers remove bananas is decreasing at a rate, that's what it is, and then the amount, or the value that you got, so that would be negative 8.120, so we put the negative by saying decreasing at a rate. So that's what it is. and then, or that's the value, and then our units, so pounds per hour squared, and then the time or the time interval. So remember, interpretations always have 4 things. You get 1 point for figuring out what f prime of 7 is, so this value here, and then you get 1 point for the interpretation. For part C, it says, is the number of pounds of bananas on the display table increasing or decreasing when t equals 5? So is the amount increasing or decreasing? Well, these are the rates. So how do I know whether the amount is increasing or decreasing? Well, the amount is increasing when the rate is positive, and the amount is decreasing when the rate is negative. Well, because these are 2 separate rates, we need to come up with one expression that represents the overall rate. So the first thing I'm going to do is figure out what, well, I guess we can do this one of 2 different ways. In this case, f of 5 represents the rate at which bananas are being removed when t equals 5. So I would just plug 5 into f, and we get 13.796. And then I'll plug 5 into g, and we would get 11.533. So we would say the rate at which bananas are being removed is 13.796 pounds per hour, and the rate at which they are being added is 11.533 pounds per hour. So obviously, the rate at which they're being removed is greater than the rate at which they're being added. So we would say, since f of 5 is greater than g of 5, we would say that the amount is decreasing. Okay. Now, we could have also said, another way of saying this is we could have said, well, g of t minus f of t is the overall rate, because this represents the rate in and then minus the rate out. So g of t minus f of t is the overall rate. If that rate, overall rate, is negative, that means the amount is decreasing. And if that overall rate is positive, then the amount is increasing. Well, we can see that if I said g of 5 minus f of 5, we would get a negative number, so we could say the amount is decreasing based on that as well. That's just another way of doing it. You would have gotten 1 point for considering f of 5 and g of 5 at some level. So as long as you got these values, you would have gotten that 1 point. And then 1 point for your answer with correct justification. Again, you could have used this justification, or you could have said, since g of 5 minus f of 5 is less than 0. That would work as well. All right, for part D, it says how many pounds of bananas are on the display table when t equals 8. So this question is saying how many pounds of bananas, and since we're given the rate, how do we get to an amount? Well, we take integrals, essentially. But this is the same type of problem as if I said, what is the position of a particle? We need to know, in order to know how many bananas there are at a certain time, we need to know how many bananas we started with. Well, it says up here that we started with 50 pounds. So we'd say, okay, we started with 50, and then we subtracted the amount that was taken away. So since f represents the rate out, the integral of f represents the amount that was taken away. And then we need to add to that the amount that was added. So we need to add to it the integral of g. Now, I want to point out here, this is going back to the first thing I said about this, is that the bananas have been taken off the shelves starting at t equals 0. But the bananas were only being added to the shelves when t equals 3 and on. So 50 is how many bananas we started with, minus this represents how many were taken away over the entire time frame. And then this represents how many bananas were added over this time frame. We don't want to start at 0 because they didn't start adding bananas until t equals 3. Anyways, plugging that into our calculator, we end up with 23.347, and that would be pounds. Again, you didn't need to put pounds because it didn't ask for units there. As far as points go, you get 2 points for the integrals. So basically, if you had something to do with the integral from 3 to 8 of g of t, and the integral from 0 to 8 of f of t, somehow, you would have gotten those 2 points. And then you would have gotten 1 point for your final answer. So you could have only gotten your final answer if you included your initial condition there. So that is part D. That wraps up this question. So with that said, make sure you grade it. And then the next question we're going to work on is question number 1 of 2018. This is acting as a quiz, so set your timer for 12 minutes and do what you can on your own with integrity. This is a calculator-based problem, and then when you're done, come back and listen to my wonderful voice to see how you did.